Mr. Speaker, we welcome the general election, but this is a Prime Minister who promised there wouldn't be one. A Prime Minister who cannot be trusted. She says it's about leadership, yet is refusing to defend her record in television debates. And it's not hard to see why. She can't explain why people's wages are lower today than they were 10 years ago, or why more households are in debt, 6 million people earning less than the living wage, child poverty is up, pensioner poverty is up. So why are so many people getting poorer? Mr. Speaker, if she's so proud of her record, why won't she debate it? Wages are falling. More children are in poverty. And the last Tory manifesto, page 28, said, "We will work to eliminate child poverty." They only eliminated the child poverty targets, not child poverty. In 2010, they promised to eradicate the deficit by 2015. In 2015, they promised to eradicate the deficit by 2020. Austerity has failed.
They pay it with their taxes, they pay it with their jobs, and they pay it with their children's futures.
Only this year, the new Chancellor pledged to eradicate the deficit by 2022. I do admire Tory consistency. It's always 5 years in the future. Another Tory broken promise. The Prime Minister leads a government that's increased national debt by £700 billion, more than every other Labour government in history put together. Debt has risen every year they've been in office. We know their economic plan was long-term. Does the Prime Minister want to tell us how far into the long term it will be before we get the debt falling? All her government has delivered, Mr. Speaker, is more debt and less funding for schools and hospitals. Schools funding being cut for the first time in a generation. The Prime Minister is cutting £3 billion a year from school budgets by 2020. She says they've created a stronger economy. So why are there tax giveaways to the richest corporations while our children's schools are starved of the resources they need to educate our children for the future?
He talks about levels of funding into schools and the NHS. There are record levels of funding going into schools and record levels of funding going into the NHS. We'll provide a good school place for every child.
Parents taking their children back to school for the summer term, many will receive a letter from the school begging for funds to buy books and fund the school. The Conservative manifesto promised the amount of money following your child into school will be protected. It isn't. It's another Tory broken promise. For the first time in its history, Mr. Speaker, NHS funding per pupil, per patient will fall this year. The NHS has been put into an all-year-round crisis by this government. Why are more people waiting in pain and millions of elderly people not getting the care and the dignity that they deserve?
I'm proud of the record we have on the NHS.
Mr. Speaker, that's a very good reason why we should have a debate about it. Because that is another Tory broken promise. A broken promise of the Tory manifesto, which said they will continue to spend more on the NHS in real terms. Say that to those waiting at A&E departments. Say that to those that can't leave hospital because social care is not available. Mr. Speaker, isn't the truth that over the last 7 years the Tories have broken every promise on living standards, the deficit, debt, the National Health Service and schools funding? Why should anyone believe a word they say over the next 7 weeks?